Welcome to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast. Available to listen to on YouTube and Spotify. George, Simon and Sterling as your hosts. 7 different leagues. Enjoy the episode.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast, joined as always by Simon and George. How are we, chaps?
All good?
Good. Episode 29 today. FA Cup action, Championship, League 1, League 2 and non-league as well to cover. Fifth round of the FA Cup wasn't the most exciting, but still some things to talk about for us. Probably the game of the round and the upset of the round came at Burnley when they were beat 2-1 to Mansfield. Isn't that right, George?
Yeah, another cup upset from Mansfield. They did it last round against Sheffield United. And they did it again, away from home again at Burnley. It was an incredible result for them. Beating a Premier League side as a League One side shows the magic of the FA Cup. There's always one sort of game like this in, the early sorts of rounds in round 3 up to round, the quarterfinals maybe. And Mansfield produced another one. It was a bit of a moment to forget for Josh Laurent, who, to be fair to him, sat down the keeper. It was a really good finish, but he proceeded to laugh in front of the Mansfield fans when he did it, and then obviously came back to bite him at the end because eventually they did get defeated. And then the equaliser from Mansfield, really good crossing by Carl Knoll, and then it was headed in by Rhys Oates to equalise. And then the free kick was special, wasn't it? About 30 yards out, top left corner from Lewis Reed, who had a really good game against Sheffield United as well, didn't he? He's had an incredible cup run, really put his name in the headlines in the competition this season, and earned themselves a home tie to Premier League leaders Arsenal in the 5th round. So credit to Nigel Clough and the players, mid-table in League One after being tipped as relegation favourites at the start of the season, and then having a cup run like this. It's been so impressive to see how well they've been doing this season, and especially on top of the league season. They've been on an incredible cup run, haven't they?
Yeah, they'll definitely take confidence from that. As you said, tipped to go down in League One. Mid-table, not too bad. Obviously, they're happy with that. I imagine the board was saying just stay up. And then, an amazing cup run. 2 big scalps there. Sheffield United not having the best season, neither are Burnley, but still teams in the leagues above them. And historically big teams. Not too long ago, Sheffield United were a Prem team as well and in the Championship playoffs. So no mugs, they've done really well and they're performing well as well. And that free kick to win it was really special and some amazing memories for the Mansfield fans.
Yeah, it was a great free kick from Lewis Reed. I really enjoyed that. I'm glad that Clough is making a go of it there, because obviously he got a soft spot for him. He used to play for Liverpool, and I think his dad was one of the greatest managers never to manage England. It's probably on a short list of 2 or 3. But he never won the FA Cup either as a player or as a manager, Clough Senior. So it's nice to see Nigel doing so well in the FA Cup. So probably going to come up against reality against Arsenal in the next round, unfortunately, but it's been a great journey while they've been on it, and he's shown the calibre of his leadership really to get that team in the position they are in League One when everybody had them going down, so it's good to see.
I didn't know he was Brian Clough's son. Never knew that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's good that actually Mansfield are at home to Arsenal because we're not going to speak about it, but the fact that Wigan game was at the Emirates just made it completely uninteresting for me. I thought I might watch it, and I saw that it was at the Emirates. I thought I'm not even going to bother, and I'm glad I didn't because
they've had a tricky cup run, haven't they? Arsenal, what's it now? Portsmouth, Wigan, and Mansfield. Bloody hell!
Yeah.
Tricky, innit? Jesus Christ!
Yeah. Same with City. Who did they have in the 4th round? And then they got Salford.
I think they got. Did they get Newcastle? I think they got Newcastle. To be fair,
No,
so
not in the league round, but I just
oh,
mean
you're
the
saying
ones.
oh right, yeah, definitely in that factor, 100%.
And then the Albion get Man United and Liverpool away. Cheers.
Yeah,
No,
I don't even want to talk about that Brighton game. Fucking hell.
we're not even going to bother this week. We'll brush past it. Probably the most interesting game, other than that, I think, was the Birmingham versus Leeds game. Went all the way to penalties. Really well contested, and a really big advocate for Birmingham with their hopes to go up. I think that they can, swing a few punches if they do go up to the Premier League, so to speak, because they gave Leeds a really good go. Obviously, took them all the way to pens, which is just a lottery, really, in many ways. But we watched it, didn't we, Dad? I think you watched all of it. I was kind of tuning in and out, but they could have gone on to win it, really, couldn't they, Birmingham, after equalising late on?
I think they should have done. Osman had some great chances for Birmingham on that left wing, and counted about 3 chances that he should have converted at least one of them. I don't think he troubled the keeper with any of them, so there's an opportunity missed from
I
him.
think the last one was close, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's
I thought it hit the post.
closer than the other two.
Yeah.
They showed that they can go toe to toe with a team in that bottom half of the Prem, though, Birmingham. So they'd obviously expect to get themselves into the playoffs at least this season. And if they can get into the Prem, I don't think they're going to disgrace it by any stretch of the imagination. And the atmosphere there was fantastic. It really did make it a good game. But
Yeah.
Leeds had plenty of support there behind one of the goals, which helped. But there's a bit of animosity between the two teams. It goes back to the 1970s somehow. I don't really understand it myself, but it's one of those games that you look forward to seeing because you know they're going to have good support both teams. So yeah, it's a good game. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've got it written down here that the atmosphere was brilliant, and you could hear both sides fans on the telly. So, yeah, it was brilliant. You don't really expect anything less. I thought potentially, I don't know anything about a rivalry, but the Brummies aren't very well liked. I don't think by many people, are they?
No, I saw a few little Aston Villa fans when I went to Villa Park, giving it the big and outside of the ground and inside of the ground. I was just like, "Cheers, mate!" Like, I've travelled about 4 hours. I don't need anything else, do I?
No, exactly. Yeah, George, how was your time up at Villa Park? Because we haven't spoken to you on the podcast. Tell everybody listening just very briefly. So you went up there
Yeah,
last week.
yeah. I went up there last week. It was a lot better from a Brighton perspective compared to the Crystal Palace game, but I thought the ground was really impressive. I do have to say, one of the best atmospheres I'd been to as well at Villa Park. But in terms of Villa, I didn't think they were that great, and I think you could see that for the game you're about to speak about in a second, Simon. They just didn't. They won obviously, but I think Brighton looked the better team on the day. I just think Brighton didn't take the chances, and we haven't been taking chances recently. I don't think we've scored in the last 3 games, have we? So yeah, I mean, it was a really impressive ground. A very long trip home. I got in at 2:30, and then on the way back, I got a lift. I got a lift back, and then you turn on the car and realise that you got no petrol in the car, so we had to sharply turn the car around and hope that we'd survive and not have to pull over because it said low petrol and it didn't say how much we had left. So it was sort of hoping for dear life that we'd get to the petrol station without having to pull over because of the petrol, which I think just summed up my day. Overall, it was a good day. I did a little match day vlog, so that should go out maybe after this episode's been released or something like that. But yeah, I mean, disappointing result, but it was a good experience. So yeah.
Yeah, good to hear, mate.
Well, I pick up on that Villa then, because that FA Cup game was just I mean, it made me laugh towards the end because Unai Emery was standing there with pursed lips, looking absolute daggers at the players on the pitch. But they didn't deserve anything out of it, Villa. They were just. I mean, I don't know how they were winning at half time. Even it just defied belief.
No.
But to give them credit, Newcastle came straight back out at the second half and got the result they deserved. And they had fantastic support down at Villa Park as well, Newcastle, so that was good to see. But all the time I was watching it, I kept thinking to myself, this is a great advert for VAR, this game, because the officiating was absolutely atrocious. I mean, it wasn't even... I read a report this morning, because Kavanagh's been suspended, hasn't he, or dropped, whatever way you want to call it.
As he should have.
Yeah, I think one of the linesmen as well. The other one's been given a reprieve and's got the Liverpool game at the weekend, so Christ knows what reception he's going to get. But I mean, there wasn't even controversial decisions. They were blatant.
Yeah.
The red card, not even. I think that's the linesman on that side that's also been suspended because he should have said something to Kavanagh because Digne went straight in, studs up, uncontrolled challenge, and Ramsey's got blood pouring out of his leg. He's obviously been badly injured or could have been badly injured by it. It's a straight red card. I just don't get it. And then the handball in the box should have been. Digne should have been sent off for that as well because it was a blatant handball, and he gets that completely wrong. It just
Did he give a free kick for that?
Gave a free kick on the edge of the box, and Digne doesn't even land outside the box. He lands inside the box,
ridiculous.
Then steps outside the box. It was just appalling.
Yeah.
I just, I don't want to turn this into another rant about VAR, but it made you realise. But some people were saying that Kavanagh's refereed the way he did because he's used to having VAR to back it up. So he's not sending Digne off because he thinks I'll go to VAR and they're going to tell me to send him off. I'm not going to give a penalty because it's going to go to VAR and they're going to tell me to give a penalty. But I mean, that's not the way VAR is supposed to be used. It's just stupefying, absolutely stupefying. And the other thing I kept thinking about was I read a report when Saturday comes, they're talking about key match incidents. Because apparently the Premier League have come up with this board of people that look at key match incidents, and that's the one that I referred to a few weeks ago that said there's been 12 or 13 errors.
Yeah.
But apparently, when you dig a little bit deeper into this key match incident board they've set up, it's got like 5 people on it, 2 ex-players and 3 referees. Nobody asked them to set it up. The referee association didn't ask them to set it up. The players didn't ask them to set it up. The clubs didn't ask them to set it up. They just decided to set it up themselves. And these 13 incidents that have been deemed as errors, they're not all 5 out of 5 people voting them as errors. A lot of them are 3 out of 2. 3 out of the 5 people voting them as errors and 2 people disagreeing. And that sort of detail gets lost in the reporting of it all. And it just seems to me that they're just making trouble for themselves. But it did show up the absolutely appalling level of refereeing in the Premier League, and because he's supposed to be one of the better ones, Kavanagh.
Yeah, he had an absolute stinker, didn't he? I mean, I've not even seen. I saw the red card for Bizzo. I haven't even seen the challenge on Jacob Ramsey. But I've seen the penalty, or the penalty that should have been, and it's a lucky break really that Newcastle actually went and scored from it. Otherwise, you'd be absolutely fuming. You think if you're a Newcastle fan and you've ended up losing that game maybe 2-1, and you should have had Digne sent off and then handballed it should have been a penalty, and you've gone on not had a penalty and then lost the game, you'd be fuming. So, just luckily for Newcastle, they actually went on to win the game.
Yeah, Rooney was saying in an interview, I think it might have been a podcast or something, that it was similar to, he thought it was a similar decision to like Lampard versus Germany with the one that went over the line and stuff. He thought it was that bad. And honestly, I Well, I thought, it is very close, isn't it? Because you could just see from plain sight, like that is like the most blatant handball, and you can see from the Newcastle players' reactions, they go absolutely mental because they're literally in disbelief that the referee could be that, out of his
Yeah,
depth, really, that he's not given that. It just look, and then Digne himself. I mean, how he didn't get sent off in the game is beyond me because he had that, and obviously the challenge that you said, Simon. I just couldn't believe it. Watching it at the time, I was basically laughing to myself, thinking how was the standard of officiating from one of who's meant to be one of the best in the country, this poor. But I think in terms of the game, I thought Villa were, pretty average. And then, they went 1-0 up, and then that red card really changed it because then Newcastle were able to, change things up and obviously result in getting the 3 goals in the end. And it was a really good finish by Tonali as well. And, when they got the first one, they just didn't look like they were going to. They didn't look like they were going to lose that game. They just looked like they were going to sail to victory because Villa looked quite poor and, the man down. They were playing poor originally. So, yeah, I think Newcastle deserved it on the grand scheme of things. But, even though Villa did beat Brighton, I think their, performances on the pitch at the minute have dropped off a little bit in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, they definitely have. Villa, they'll be wanting to find their form a little bit. I think, I don't know if we've mentioned it much on here, but with the VAR whole debacle, we've said it many a times, haven't we, Dad? It's got to be an appeal system. Just to round it off, going back to VAR, just bring an appeal system in.
Each club
2 appeals a half or whatever it is.
If they do that and stop refereeing it by remote control, I don't think we're going to get anywhere with it. Just the final thing to say on VAR was, I don't know if you saw in Serie A, but the referee of the Inter-Juve game has been told to stay at home because he's been getting death threats after he sent a player off for Juve.
Oh, my God.
And VAR
That's all.
clearly showed straight away afterwards that the player that he was judged to have fouled for the second yellow card was actually simulating and should have been booked himself. But because VAR's got this rule that says we don't intervene in yellow cards, even though they were telling him he's dived, you don't need to send him off. It was too late. He'd already booked him and sent him off. So it just shows you what a farce it is that if you're going to have it for ridiculous things like, the Digne challenge and the penalty, but you're not going to say to the referee, even though he can quite clearly hear you saying it, you can't send him off for that because the bloke dived. It's absurd. And now you've got a situation where this referee is in hiding because Juve fans are out to kill him.
Mental.
Yeah, Italian football is crazy though. The fans are fucking nutters, aren't they? Let's be honest. But we'll swiftly move on from that. Don't want any bloody Juve fans coming for me. We'll swiftly move on to the Championship, and really the biggest game of the weekend came last night. We're flicking between the Macclesfield Brentford game and this one, Coventry versus Borough, and yeah, it was a really good game actually. When we switched it on, Borough were having a real go at it. It was 2-0 to Coventry, but they were having a real go at it. Sarmiento hit the post, and they got the goal, but they eventually lost 3-1, didn't they, Borough? And what did you think of it, Dad?
Yeah, it's a shame we couldn't watch it really in all its glory because it looked like a fantastic game. Haji Wright with a hat-trick. Borough, before that game, I was reading that Borough was sort of worried about the fact that they usually have some sort of midwinter slump. And it looked like Coventry have had one of those as well, but they've come out of it the other end now, so got themselves back above Borough by 1 point. I think both of them have got enough quality to not get caught by that chasing Pat, but you just don't know. With the Championship, the games come thick and fast, don't they? The thing that I said, or you said to me, I think, during the game was, why don't Brighton sign a player like Haji Wright? And I just thought to myself, well, they don't. Brighton tend not to sign players in their prime like that. He's going to cost top dollar salary as well, signing on fee. That's assuming you can tempt Coventry to unload him. And it's frustrating, really, because you look at that Brighton squad and it is just predominantly youngsters with loads of potential or players that are on the twilight of their careers, even though they are great pros and they're still going to produce one game in three, perhaps. You're just not getting players that are in their prime like that. And none of his goals were the same. They're all different goals. One was a poacher's effort, one was a penalty. The second one was a long punt upfield by Rushworth that he got on the end of. And once he realised the defender wasn't going to make an intervention, he just sort of grabbed hold of it and tucked it away nicely. So he's definitely got the class to play at a level above. It's a shame that he's probably going to be playing there for Coventry rather than with Brighton.
Yeah, I mean, just on Middlesbrough and that, I don't know where you read it, but winter slump. I think you said from previous seasons, but that's their first loss in 5 games. They've won their last 4, so I don't really see any trend there in terms of their recent fixtures. So they'll be hoping to bounce back, and they have Oxford United at home, so I'm sure they will this Saturday. But yeah, the conversation was purely just on, we've been going back and forth, haven't we, all three of us, and I'm sure you have, George, with your Brighton mates, and out the Albion, we've been having the conversation about what's going on. A lot of people just want to put it down to the manager, but we spoke about the recruitment as well, and I think you've hit the nail on the head, and we've hit the nail on the head saying it. You're bringing young, exciting prospects in, but not players who, I think, crucially, have any experience of playing English football. So, like this Babis Costulas, he's a great player, and he can pull out an overhead kick because he's special and he's going to be a brilliant player.
Yeah.
A brilliant Premier League player. But putting him up front against Crystal Palace, good idea in theory, but he doesn't know how to play English football yet, does he? So getting a player like Haji right, or even that Conway from Middlesbrough, somebody who's got the experience of playing English football, and they know the system, they know the physicality of it, and they're in their prime. That was the idea, but wanting to just go away from that and talk about the game. Yeah, he had a brilliant game. Penalty was beautiful. Stuck it bottom left, and really that was a killer because Borough were knocking on the door. As I said, Sarmiento hit the post, then they got their goal. And I'm sure Coventry fans would have been shaking a little bit because I think with their form that they've been on, I reckon Borough would have gone and got an equaliser for that. So it's just lucky and unfortunate from a Middlesbrough perspective that who was it? Target Matt
Yeah,
Target
Matt Target. Yeah.
with the handball, and it was a bolt on handball as well, I think.
Yeah, it was. But it was a very promising, performance from Coventry after such poor performances recently and the inconsistency, which has, had them below Middlesbrough before this game kicked off. But obviously regaining top spot of the Championship table this week. But yeah, really impressed with Haji Wright, and I do agree with you in the aspect that Brighton could, get players like that have the experience. I'd say, I'd say in the Championship, but I'd say also in the Premier League, players that have done it. Season after season in the Premier League have got experience of putting the ball in the back of the net, and you could see in the game that Haji Wright, should probably be playing in the Premier League wherever that be. It could be at, your Brentfords or even your Burnleys. Like, he should be a Premier League player because the goals were brilliant, but just his general play as well. I thought he was linking up play brilliantly as well. But yeah, I think it's a huge result for Coventry. Hopefully, a bit of a team morale builder because of how the form's been going for them. But Kim Aylberg has been doing so well since he joined Middlesbrough, so I think this will just be a blip for them, because you could see probably in the second half a bit more when they were chasing for that goal that they had the quality and they had really good spells of play, but I just think Coventry had more on the night overall and deserved the 3 points.
Yeah, massive win, and we'll have to keep an eye out how it continues to shape up, because teams like Millwall that I wanted to speak about now are hot on the tail. They got a good win away at Sheffield Wednesday on the weekend, come back from a goal down to go 2-1 up and eventually win the game. Only 5 points off Borough now in third, Millwall. I'm not sure if that put them back up to third or it kept them in third, but regardless, it's kept them in and amongst that challenging pack to maybe just knock one of those two off, either Borough or Coventry, because it could be either now if they slip up. Borough will be hoping they don't have no winter slump, because Millwall don't really look like losing too many games. They've been in and amongst it for the whole season pretty much, haven't they? And they show good character, actually. I thought Sheffield Wednesday showed good character, and I'll keep Sheffield Wednesday in my thoughts when we're doing our predictions for League One next year, because they're certain to go down. But I think some of the results they've got recently and some of the performances they've been putting in show that, you know what, without all those points deductions and just the absolute shit show that's been their season, I don't think they would have done too bad this season. They went 1-0 up in the game.
Yeah.
And that's against a really good Millwall side, and they had to. All the goals came after the 60th minute, and they had to work really hard, Millwall, for their win. Tommy Watson involved in the equaliser. It was an own goal. Put it, just beat his man on the left hand side, beat the right back, I think it was. Put the ball across, think it was going out, and then just waiting for someone to tap it in, but it was the defender that put it in. And then, yeah, not too long after, they got the winner, Millwall. So, really good result for them. But, yeah, I was impressed with Sheffield Wednesday as well, to be honest. So, it wasn't all about Millwall for me. I think League One next season, they'll be strong contenders.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a decent performance just in terms of how their season's going. You know, they've got nothing to play for. They know they're a League One side next season. I mean, it'll be one of the greatest footballing stories of all time if they stayed up now. So, you know, it's not going to happen. But I think the funny factor was it was their first goal since Boxing Day, which is just so funny.
I don't even think it's mathematically possible, George, for them to stay up now.
Yeah,
From the
I think
start.
I think they're already gone. I think they're already in the dirt. But I think the fans were going absolutely mental when they scored their first goal, because they hadn't experienced a goal since Boxing Day, which just made it a bit extra special. But fair play to Millwall, they kept at it, and Tommy Watson was a big part of the Millwall goal, wasn't he? Whipped in a cross, and then it was an unfortunate own goal by McGee, who just sort of tackled it into his own net, and then Millwall got the winner basically straight after Macaulay Longstaff off the bench, who was at Notts County a few years ago and was bagging in the goals, and doesn't surprise me to see him playing Championship football now after so many seasons of success. But yeah, I think you're right to bring up Millwall, because they've been so good recently, you know, really good run of form, and they are definitely, I think I agree with you, will keep in around that sort of pack of three, it sort of looks like now, with them, Coventry and Middlesbrough, you know, fighting for the title and also just being inside of them automatic spaces, because, you know, you got Ipswich that have 2 games in hand and all 3 teams above them. So if they win then, they could even go above. They could go above Middlesbrough into no, just below Middlesbrough. Sorry, on 60 points and be within 2 points of the top spot, which is crazy to think that so many teams are so close to winning this league title. So, yeah, I think credit to Sheffield Wednesday that, you know, they're still fighting to, sticking around with teams that high up the table and really compete with teams before they go down. But yeah, credit to Millwall, they're on a cracking run of form and would not be surprised to see him in the automatic places come the end of the season.
Yeah, I think they've got a good manager there in Alex Neil, who's been there, done that. So I think that's going to count in their favour. Got a good defence, but it's getting the ball in the net that's been their problem. So I think Tommy Watson going there is only going to help. And by all accounts, he had a good game. It's a bit frustrating, really, that Brighton paid better part of £40 million for him, and there he is doing the stuff for Millwall. But there you go.
Yeah, it's been the way Gruder scored for RB Leipzig as well on the weekend, didn't he? So, yeah, enough about Brighton though. George, you wanted to speak about QPR. Unfortunate result for them, and we're talking about them potentially pushing on for a playoff position, but this didn't help their chances, did it?
No, it was a big hit for them, really big hit against Blackburn side that have been really struggling, but got a new manager in Michael O'Neill, who is one of a sort of small sort of bunch of managers that are managing at club and country at the same time. He's a Northern Ireland manager and also the Blackburn manager at the same time, which you don't see a lot of managers doing. But I think Northern Ireland are they in the qualifying stage for the World Cup? They got qualifying rounds. I can't remember, but
I don't know if they are.
yeah, but it's still quite a interesting thing that he's done there. So fair play to him. But yeah, in terms of the game, it was Matthias Jorgensen with a brace from Cam, who signed in January from Bodø Glint. He scored 3 goals since joining the club, and Royo Morishita. I think I've done well there. I'm quite happy with that. He got a goal and an assist, and his assist was unbelievable as well. It was a clip over the top, touches it down, laced it down, and then the defender comes to sort of press him, just nutmegs him, see you later. And then the through ball was just pinpoint. Couldn't have put it on a plate more for Jorgensen to get his second of the game. But yeah, and then Tronstad in the midfield, I think I said that right. He was unreal. You could see from the highlights. 12 defensive contributions in the game, and he earned himself 2 assists in the game. Really good, and he won the ball back for the second goal, sort of just crunching tackle on a QPR midfielder. Got up, picked up the ball, through ball, and then the finish. But I saw someone on Twitter, a cheeky little comment from Blackburn, because it came out, speaking about Brighton again, unfortunately, but it was about how Brighton reportedly only signed him because of the good data which he had as a Derby player, and signed him regardless of being warned about him as just how he plays in general. And then Blackburn put no data reports needed to know that this man was absolutely superb again today, which I thought was brilliant. Class banter from Blackburn, Twitter admin, but basically putting aside that he's shit, basically. So credit to them for saying that. But I thought it was interesting that Brighton, well, the reports have came out saying that about cashing, because it was a confusing signing at first, but now that reports are coming out and saying about that, just sort of adds to the spectacle about how and why Brighton did sign them in the end. But in terms of QPR, it's a big hit for them. Further hit now in 13th, but still in 13th are only 4 points off the playoffs. So it just shows how congested it is in there. But 1 win in 6 just shows how inconsistent they are at the minute. But Blackburn, it was a good result for them because I think that extended their gap at the bottom three to 3 points in 19th place. So they've got a little bit of breathing space there, but still need to be worried. But huge 3 points for Blackburn under a new gaffer, but QPR need to find consistency if they want to be in the playoffs come the end of the season.
Yeah, massive result for Blackburn. Still not home and dry, but I think 4 points away from Leicester. Well, actually only 3. Leicester in 22nd. So, yeah, massive result for them. In terms of QPR, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just inconsistency. And really, looking at that middle pack, it's the same for all those teams. If they can just find a bit of form going into these last 10 or so games, however many it is, before the playoffs come, then they'll find themselves in there. Because Stoke have dropped down to 14th now,
Yeah.
crazily. Watford, we were speaking about, Birmingham,
Mm.
Saints, Bristol City, QPR, obviously, on the topic of them, they're all just been really inconsistent. I know some of them are on good form now, but throughout the season. And yeah, QPR, as you said, one win in 6. Not good enough from their standards, especially at home as well, because they got good support at Loftus Road. So, yeah, they'll be gutted with that one, and I think it is a blow, but not to say that they're over and out just yet. And I'll make clear point on that, because didn't we have somebody on the TikTok giving us beans the other week about that, George? It's about
Yeah.
QPR back giving us beans. He's like, "Do you know what you're talking about?"
Oh no,
Because
that
we
was the
said that.
Watford. That was the Watford fan.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
mate,
because we
he was
said
so
there's a big.
rattled.
We said it was a big. It was a big blow that they lost one of their games, and then Garcia went. Um, and that is going to hurt their chances to get promoted, which it will. And yeah, but he was having it right out with us, Dad. You should have seen it. It was funny.
Yeah, well,
That's
they've
so funny.
obviously everyone's entitled to their opinions, but if you look at their recent form, Watford and QPR have got 1 win between them from 12 games, and yet they're both
Yeah,
still only 4 points away from Derby County in 6th. So if that's not blowing your chances of getting promoted, I don't know what is. Just going back
We're
to my
backing your opinion up, Si. We're
yeah, well
backing you
done,
up.
well done. Just going back to Michael O'Neill, he's Northern Ireland are in the playoffs for the World Cup. They've got Italy. And
Yeah, there you
if
go.
they somehow do a North Macedonia and beat Italy, they then got Wales or Bosnia Herzegovina to get into the actual World Cup itself. So I would say the chances are slim to non-existent. But he's a good manager. He's managed at this level before, and he's more than capable of digging Blackburn out of that
Mm.
relegation quagmire. Because obviously we can discount Sheffield Wednesday, but and to a certain extent Oxford, although they had a good result against Coventry last week, but
Yeah.
that does seem to be a little bit of one from 5 or 6 down at the bottom, and hopefully he can pull them out of it.
and I think Leicester will find themselves out of that as well.
Yeah, should do. With the
Because they're
quality
only
they
in it
have.
now. Yeah, and they're in it now because of that points deduction, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's tight down there. I am really interested to see who makes up the bottom 3 come the end of the season, because top to bottom, really, it's so congested in different areas of the table. So really interesting league to cover, and can't wait to see how it ends up.
Absolutely. We'll move it on to League One. A top of the table clash that I was looking at between Lincoln and Bolton ended 1-1. Just from the highlights and looking at the stats, you can see that Bolton absolutely rode their luck in this game. I mean, Lincoln, everyone involved with Lincoln Football Club will be fuming that they didn't win this game. Massive 2 points dropped, really, and a massive missed opportunity. Funnily enough, Bolton actually had 62% of possession in the game, but they really didn't do anything with it. Their goal came out of nowhere, very late on to equalise. Sam Dolby again, with another goal, and I think not sure how many goals he's got for Bolton now, but he seems to be getting on the score sheet quite a lot.
Yeah,
Great finish from a set piece, just like a flick header. It wasn't even, he was facing away from goal, and he just used the pace on the ball and the momentum that it was travelling just to get a flick on. But yeah, Lincoln 22 shots and 10 on target, 4 big chances missed. They hit the post, they hit the bar. They had an XG of 2.2, and they only managed to score 1 goal. Bolton had 0.59 XG expected goals for the game, so shows there that they massively rode their luck, Bolton, and they'll just be happy that they came away with a point late on. Limbs for the fans away from home. They were behind the goal where the winner went in, so excuse me, yeah, really, really good for Bolton, but Lincoln, massive missed opportunity. And just one final thing to add, I think the possession for Bolton just shows that they're missing players like Cozy Dewberry, who's out with injury at the moment, because they're not really able to produce anything with the possession they had, because you'd be expecting 62% possession, low to the ball. You're able to produce a few more big chances, or just a few big chances in general, fashion some opportunities in the game. But no, they couldn't do that, and luckily they got a point and kept up the pace, really.
The same problem we've spoken about all season long with Bolton. Now it's another draw, isn't it? And that's not really going to get you up into those top 2 places, I think. You know, if you think about the difference between the 2 teams at the moment is 6 points. If they'd managed to turn that possession that you talked about into a win, they would have taken that difference down to 3 points, and that really could make the difference between catching Lincoln or not. Lincoln will definitely come out of that the happier of the 2 teams, without a doubt, because they would have had that.
Lincoln will be happier.
Yeah, I think so. I think that keeps Bolton at arm's length. You know, they would have probably had that on their calendar for a few weeks in anticipation. You know, Bolton, they can't. You know, 11 draws they've had this season. You're not going to get promoted if you're drawing that many games, unfortunately. And they do seem to have run out a little bit of steam now that Koza Dewberry's injured. He's out for the season, I think, isn't he?
I'm not sure.
There's a really bad injury he had, because I think he was planning on returning to the Brighton, you know, just like physio team to help his injuries speed up. But yeah, it's looked a bad one.
It doesn't have an expected date back on Footmob or anywhere, so
Right.
I think that's telling. But yeah, it's a good point, Dad. I think if you look at it that way, maybe Lincoln will be the happier of the two, as you say, keeping them at arm's length. And Bolton have had some good results as well. I know you say about the draws, but they've had, I think, 3 wins, or including this one, 3 wins out of 5, and unbeaten in 5. So
they needed to win that game. You know, they're 6 points behind, and Lincoln have got a game in hand. They needed to win it, not draw it. As simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to turn possession into the end product at the end of the day. So there's definitely a point gained for Lincoln City. I think they'd be quite happy with that.
Yeah.
I think Cardiff would have been. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought Cardiff will be buzzing with that result, because a point for second and third, and then they win on the weekend as well, just extends their gap from, you know, being top of the league for one, but then as well as that, they're, you know, extending the gap from being out of the automatic spot. So I think in terms of that, it was a huge result in that aspect. But yeah, I think in terms of the game, I think it was. I do agree with Simon, because they want to, you know, keep up with, you know, the results that Cardiff are getting. They don't want to fall behind, and that result has sort of caused that to happen. But I think Bolton will be happy with that, go home with a point, and against a side that are just above them, you know, they would have not wanted to lose that game, and extended the gap of, you know, not being near the automatic spots. They needed at least something when the full-time whistle went, and they did get that. So I think Bolton would have been the happier of the teams come the full-time whistle.
Yeah.
You think Bolton would have been the happier? Or do you mean Lincoln?
Lincoln, sorry, yeah, Lincoln.
Yeah, thought so.
Yeah, talking about Cardiff, they had a great result themselves. They beat Luton 3-1 at the weekend, which Brian Barry Murphy was talking about one of their best performances of the season. Didn't someone have a go at the beginning of the season? Because we all tipped Cardiff to win this, I think, didn't we? And they Cardiff supporters said we didn't know what we were talking about. But they look like they're getting into their groove now, definitely.
They were having a go because we'd said that they got loads of new players, but really they're just from the academy. So it actually wasn't wrong.
No.
But yeah.
It wasn't wrong, but they were just frustrated. People behind screens, that's what they do. They like to take the piss.
Yeah, as I was saying, Brian Barry Murphy was really rhapsodising about that performance from Cardiff at the weekend because they blew Luton away really in the first half. Really dominant performance. The whole game, Luton had one shot on target, and that was the penalty that they got to sort of get themselves back into it. But Jack Wilshere was the opposite opinion after the game. He was talking about the team lacking courage and self-belief. They got themselves back into the game, but they really couldn't cope with Cardiff's intense pressure, unfortunately, and that is a poor result for them. Luton, on the back of some recent poor results, has left them outside the playoffs at the moment.
Yeah, I've seen some of what Wilshere was saying, that they lack belief, especially away from home. That they kind of, not in these particular words, but go into their shell. And then just actually looking at it now for more context, saying that they need to know when to keep the ball away from home. So potentially a little bit just naive, Luton away from home. And yeah, frustrating for them because they've actually moved out of the playoff positions now in League One. Only 4 points off of Huddersfield in sixth, but that gap keeps extending, and they're on a bit of a rubbish run of games. Looked that they might get back into a bit of form before this. They had 2 wins on the trot, but of their last 5, they've had 3 losses, 2 wins, so they just need to find a bit of consistency again. But yeah, in terms of Cardiff, we said it in time and time before. They're the clear runaways in this league. And George, as you said, in terms of them and playoffs, I don't think they've got anything to worry about now. It's just for the title, because they're 10 points away from Bolton in third. See them slipping down that much.
Yeah, I can only see them, being the front runners now come the end of the season, and if they do bottle it, it'll sort of be, we always bring it up, but it'll be similar to the Walsall situation, wouldn't it? Where, you're so far clear, and then sort of the pressure gets you, and then the results start dropping off, and teams are, having good results themselves and fighting to get there, and they bottle it. But I don't think that'll be the case with them come the end of the season. I think they'll cruise to the title.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And just moving on, well, I was just out of habit thinking to say side nearer to the bottom, but can't say that anymore about Reading. They found themselves in 7th position, one position off the playoffs and 3 points. So crazy turnaround for Reading, and they had another really good result on the weekend, didn't they, George?
Yeah, huge 3 points for them at home to a team that sort of were in the chase and pack with them, but with this result have sort of extended the gap and put themselves into a really big shout of being inside the playoffs come the end of the season. It ended 3-2 to Reading against Wickham, which was a huge result for Reading's push for the playoffs, as I said. But the key point of the game was Jack Marriott getting a hat-trick, showing his experience in the game. He's got 15 goals and 3 assists in the league this season, joint top goal scorer now, with them 3 goals on the weekend. Really good performance, and the goals that he was scoring, it was unbelievable. To complete his hat-trick, it was an unreal finish. It sort of looked like a little toe poke from. He sort of got in front of the defender. He had the ball sort of shielded, but then the ball was bouncing up, and he just found his foot in front of the defender first, and he hit it straight into the top corner. It was a brilliant finish, showing
Nice.
that little bit of experience, that slight bit more experience than the Wycombe defenders to get in the way and sort of get in front of the defender first and put it into the back of the net. But they would have been absolutely fuming, Wycombe, because they worked so hard to make it 2-2, and I honestly, the amount of chances that Wycombe had in that game was an absolute joke. Like, it was, I think it was like a 7-8 minute highlight reel, and I think the 3 highlights for Reading were their goals, and then Wycombe had so many other chances. It was crazy. I think they will be absolutely fuming that they didn't get anything out of the game. And to be fair, I mean, scoring 2 goals doesn't really summarise. You look from the outside looking in, like, 2 goals. They've done all they can, but they should have got something out of that game. They should have had about 4 or 5 from looking at some of the chances they created. But he's Reading 3 points off the playoffs with a game in hand on Huddersfield. So if they win, they do go level on points with them, but their goal difference is quite poor. So they'd have to win by about 5-6-0 or something like that if they wanted to go above them. But Wycombe, that was, as I said before, killer blow in 11th now, and it's leaving them 6 points off the playoff paces. And if they won on the weekend, I think they would have been in the same position as Reading. I think before kickoff, they were both on the same amount of points, or one was one above the other or something like that. So it was such a crucial win for Reading, and a really killer, as I said, a killer blow for Wycombe's chances of getting in the playoffs come the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the new manager is not so new now, but since he came in, Liam Richardson for Reading, back end of October, I think it was, they've done great, and obviously, that's not a it's not a wild thing to say. It's very obvious seeing where they've moved from in the table. So yeah, massive credit for them, and seems like they had that extra bit of quality, as you're saying there, George, because Wickham all the chances but couldn't find the back of the net, and then you got Jack Marriott with the experience and the quality. 3 goals to win them the game, really.
Yeah.
Marriott's the joint top goal scorer in League One now, so just shows you what you can do with that bit of experience at this level. That game in hand that they've got, Reading's at home to Bolton tonight, so we'll have to tune into that, see what's going on with that. I think we're probably going to watch Bristol City Wrexham, but we'll have a dive into that every now and again as well, I think.
Yeah, that's a massive game, actually. We'll have to try flip between the two. But we'll move on to League Two now. Some very interesting games in this league. A lot of 1-0s, 1-alls. But the two most exciting, really, we're gonna cover, seem fit to cover, was Cambridge 3-1 at home to Bristol Rovers. Ben Knight with a double. Could have, maybe should have had a hat-trick, but one of them was a penalty.
Yeah.
Just after half time to make it 2-1, but the opener was a brilliant finish from them, and from him, sorry, and a really good move actually from Cambridge. Nice bit of football, and then curled it into the top right hand corner. Bristol Rovers got back into it with a penalty right on the stroke of half time. It was a bolt on pen, which was converted nicely. But Cambridge ultimately had a bit too much quality for Bristol Rovers. The game was fairly even on paper, but as I said, yeah, just that extra quality for Cambridge. Watts sealed the deal with a late header to make it 3-1. And again, they're happy with that win. Moves them further up into the, I think, third now at the top of the league. So, oh no, I think it might even be second. But yes, it moves them into a even greater position in League Two.
Yeah, huge result for them. They, sort of had a blip in that Harrogate result. So I think they've won two on the bounce since then. I think they beat Crawley. They beat Crawley in
3-0,
midweek.
3-1.
Yeah, so 2 big results for them to sort of come over that result that was so damaging for them. And it looked like, well, not damaging, but like from the outside, it looked like how have they lost that game? Do you know what I mean? And from that result, you'd think, oh, can they, sort of steady the ship and come back from that? And they have really well against a Crawley side that has lots of quality but are still doing really poorly. But Bristol Rovers have been on a really good run of form under Steve Evans, and he's changing it around there. So that result is not like, just looking from the table, you'd think, oh, they should win that easily, but it is a really good result in terms of how good of form that Bristol Rovers are on. I remember seeing on the EFL account, I might have sent it to you as well, that Ben Knight won Player of the Month for the league and Neil Harris won the Manager of the Month.
Yeah.
I think it just shows how, just that in itself just shows how well Cambridge have been playing, and Ben Knight himself on the double. I remember when I covered a game on them, I think it was the Oldham away game, might have been that, or another game anyway. But I remember, them putting stuff on their social media about how well he's been playing. You could just look from his stats that he's been incredible for them in the last couple of months and weeks and games and stuff like that. And obviously Neil Harris has been getting the results for Cambridge after such a poor start, and he's turned their season around for them. And it looks like, they're going to be in with a shout with an automatic spot, which at the start of the season you would have never thought would happen. So unbelievable from Cambridge, and credit to Neil Harris and his side.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on, Dad.
I was going to say, I didn't realise that they'd only lost once at home all season. That's really quite some feat, isn't it? To go all that time with only one defeat.
Yeah, really good. They said that on the commentary of the highlights I watched. So yeah, even more reason as to why they're up that end of the table, to have such a strong home record. But they're not home and dry. Swindon, who we're going to speak about the other game, really detrimental loss. Their first loss in at least 5 games, because see here on their recent form, it's win, loss, and a really detrimental one against Shrewsbury away from home. They're still on the pace of Cambridge, but they've played an extra game now, and there's 1 point separating the two. But yeah, George, you were looking at this one.
No, you're right. Yeah, it was their first loss in 4 games for Swindon, 4 wins in a row. So it just shows how much of a good 3 points this was for a really, struggling Shrewsbury side. That will massively be looking back on this result as something they can build on, because they're so far down the bottom, and this sort of extended their gap to, I think it was 7 points, and made it 2 wins on the bounce. They beat Barrow before this and then got the win, obviously, against Swindon. So huge for them. In terms of the game, Ewan Morgan got his first for the club on loan from Brentford, who I think I mentioned a few weeks ago when I was talking about how they used the loan market a bit to try and get them out of trouble after, they started off the season so poorly and are in a relegation battle. But obviously this result put them 7 points clear, sort of helped them get away from that. But Swindon's goal, God, it was so scrappy. 2 of the goals in this game were so scrappy. It looked like ping pong, I've got here on my notes, because it somehow ended in the back of the net, but you didn't know where to look because the ball was just all over the place. And then centre-half Billy Kirkman somehow put the ball in the back of the net. But I think that goal in itself just showed a bit of what was going wrong for Shrewsbury at the start of the season and sort of now, because they're conceding goals like that. It just shows that, if you're conceding goals like that, you can see why you're in the position that you're in at the minute. But build-up play for the Shrewsbury, for the not the winner, to put them 2-1 up. Really good build-up play, and then there was a good crossing by Karen Burko for George Lloyd tapping, really. He has 5 goals and assists, and 4 goals he's got this season, and he's the club's top goal scorer, which I think shows a bit of how, the goals have been spread across the pitch. But obviously 4 goals is not a lot of goals, considering how far into the season to be the top goal scorer of the club. But the third goal was another bit of ping pong I've got here, just absolutely everywhere. As I said before, you don't know where to look. And then it was bouncing around everywhere. Then it got cleared, but then it was an absolute thunderstrike from Nick Freeman. rocket that came out of nowhere, nestled into the bottom corner, and it secured 3 points for Shrewsbury on the day. So huge win for them, as I said before. But it was, as you said, Sterling, first loss in 4 games, 4 wins in a row. But they're still in the automatic spots, but Notts County and fourth have a game in hand on them. So depending on results in the next couple of weeks, or I think that game might be tonight, if you're saying the EFL games that are happening this evening, side, then that game in hand that Notts, it is tonight. The game that Notts County have, absolutely huge, because that could be very detrimental to how Swindon's season goes, and sort of if Notts County drop points, it could be really damaging to how they find their way into the automatic spots. But yeah, off top spot by 5 points now, who also have a game in hand on them, Bromley. So I don't know about, winning the title, but I think it will be really interesting come the end of the season to see who makes like that top 3 in League Two.
Yeah, they're actually playing Shrewsbury away as well. Exactly the same fixture.
Oh, really?
Just switch that. So yeah, it worked well. Just
mad.
before you, yeah, it's crazy. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that as well. Just before you,
Definitely.
just say your piece, Dad. I wanted to briefly touch on. I'm not sure if you'd seen it, but you'll find it fucking funny because me and George are laughing. What's been going on with Ian Holloway recently, the Swindon manager? He's been going crazy in the press. There was one press conference that he had. I don't know if it was post or pre-match, but he was having a really big rant about one of the players couldn't play because he had been signed on deadline day or something, wasn't it, George? Or he wasn't eligible to play for some reason. I think it was that. Is that right, George?
Yeah, that is right. So it was the EFL trophy. They played an eligible player. So because of that, they got kicked out of the competition. And then instead of Plymouth getting a bye, I think it was Luton, regained their position back in the competition, even though they lost, and now are playing. And now are playing Plymouth in the next round instead of Plymouth getting a bye, which I didn't understand really. It was a bit confusing. I don't know what your verdict on it was.
Well, it was a bizarre situation, but he was really fucking having it off, saying I think it was the most farcical thing he's ever seen in his career, or something along those lines. He was very animated, and I just saw here as well that he's asked the Swindon fans not to boo the Swindon players because evidently they weren't very happy about that result to Shrewsbury on the weekend.
Yeah, I did see some of that. I saw a little bit of it on Sky Sports leading off about it. It's some sort of admin cock-up, wasn't it? I don't think the Football League covered themselves in glory because I don't think they told them about the subsequent ban until like an hour before kick-off or something like that. He was fuming about it. I mean, their recent form, you said that they've won 4 games on the bounce, but when you look at those games, they're against 2 of them are against Harrogate and Newport, so you'd expect them to win that. One of them are against Oldham, who are in the bottom half of the table, so you'd expect them to win that as well. So there's still a long way to go. When you've got 46 games, you can't, after 32, you can't really make any judgments. So you'll have to see how it goes over the next few games. But those 4 teams really are bunched up together there, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. And I've actually just found, I think, the thing I was talking about, or originally alluding to with Ian Holloway, was that his captain was suspended on short notice. Can't remember what it was for, but he got suspended. And he was saying, what do they want to do? Fine me? Good. They want to ban me? Good. Do it. Really, really getting animated, Ian Holloway. But yes, it will be very interesting to see how that all unfolds in League Two. As you say, really tight. Keep an eye on the Notts County game. Funnily enough, as you said, literally the same fixture away at Shrewsbury. So see if
That's
Shrewsbury
crazy.
can do to Notts County what they did to Swindon. But we'll move on to National League. Some crazy games in non-league this week actually. For all of the rather more dull games in the Football League, there was some crackers. In non-league, probably the biggest one was Scunthorpe losing at home 6-3 to Boston United.
Right.
Watch the highlights, it's crazy. Some of the Boston goals were brilliant. The second one was, I can't remember who scored it now. Oh yeah, Marty Carson, second goal from a corner, pinged out to the edge of the box. He's taken a touch. He's just, I can't remember his left foot, but he just drived it into the top right hand corner. It was brilliant. They took an early 2-goal lead. And really, Scunthorpe, they came back into it, but they couldn't get near Boston, and they were good value for the win. Yeah, I think they deserved it. It was January signing Tom Kersons, who also bagged a hat-trick in the game. Signed him from Harrogate Town. That was a good signing. And Boston are going to need it because I think we predicted them maybe to go down or be near
In and
there, but
around it.
in and around it. But signing players like him, that quality, is going to put them into the position where they are now. I think they're in 14th. A big moment at 4-2 as well, actually, of note in the game. Said Scunthorpe didn't really get near them, but they did hit the post at 4-2, which would have made it 4-3.
Mm.
And then Boston go up the other end and make it 5-3. So it was one of those
No.
games for Scunthorpe. The fans weren't best pleased. But yeah, they just couldn't get near them, and really it was Boston's day and a great day out for the fans because they looked like they were there in their numbers, and 9 goals, fairly comfortable in the game for them because I think there was always a 2-goal gap in it. And yeah, really good quality throughout actually, so a good advocate for the National League.
Yeah, mental result. I couldn't believe it when I saw it, to be fair, but it it ended 6-3. You never really see that scoreline in general, but that Boston had got to beat a really good Scunthorpe side. I mean, it's crazy because I said it when they beat Boreham Wood that, that result could sort of, turn around their season a little bit. And I didn't think it actually would. They've gone and won their last 4 games since I said that, which is mental to see. And I think just showing how compact the league is, they're literally flown into 11th place, which I think it's crazy to think that. I think when I said that, I think they're in 20th place. I don't think they're in a relegation place. Might even have been in a relegation place, but now they're in 11th. It just shows that such a short amount of time, short spell of results that they've had has just turned into them being in the just above a mid-table place, which is crazy. But yeah, it's a huge result for them, absolutely huge. And Scunthorpe aren't a bad side in this league, and beating them at their place, it's a really good ground. I think one of the best in the league. So they would have brought their numbers. Scunthorpe and Boston, a well-travelled side away from home. So, yeah, massively impressed by this. And Boston are on a cracking run of form. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that going.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was a really strange result as well, 3-6, wasn't it? You don't see that scoreline very often.
No.
Quite good to see Boston stringing a string of results together. Scunthorpe, yeah, they're a strange side. That second defeat on the bounce of them. It's so congested in that playoffs. It just makes me wonder because they're talking about bringing this form of playoffs into the Football League now.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you've read that, but I just wonder
Yeah.
whether how when you're a team like Scunthorpe, I don't think there's any chance of you not being in the playoffs, but I don't think there's much chance of them catching York City. So I wonder, sort of, does that affect motivation in some respects? Because you know you're going to end up playing in a playoff game. So, how do you get yourself up for some of these games? And you're at home against Boston. You probably think you're going to coast it because they're sort of so form, and you end up in a crazy one like this. It's a little bit like the game that I was going to talk about as well with Boreham Wood. I thought that's really why I wanted to talk about them, because they drew 2-2 at Eastleigh, which isn't a great result for them really, because they went 1-0 down, but then went 2-1 up. But then Eastleigh got back into the game to draw 2-2, and they couldn't really get a win out of it. And I think they're both 4th and 5th, aren't they? Both Boreham Wood and Scunthorpe. And
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting one. I don't know what you two think about it, but how do you motivate yourself? Because, okay, so perhaps you want to make sure you finish 2nd and 3rd so you miss out the first round of playoffs, but we all know that they're just a lottery anyway. So does it make much odds whether you're in one game or 3 games,
I think it's just that, as you say, and having a bit of form. I know they're lottery, but if you're going into it on shite form, knowing that you've lost the last 5 games leading up to it, that's no good, really, is it? So as a manager, you just got to G them up to keep doing what they're doing and keep getting results and playing in a way that's to their identity and to standard. Really, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Simon, because I think it would have been the case for York last season, because, they knew they weren't going to go up as champions and they knew they were going to be in the playoffs, probably with about 10 or so games to go. So they probably just been like, well, what's the point? So I do get where you're coming from in that aspect. In terms of the game, Eastleigh versus Boreham Wood continuing to be inconsistent, which we've pointed out for a couple of weeks now, haven't we? Joe went to this game, Sterling, actually.
I
Showed me
saw
some
that.
photos. Yeah, showed me some photos of it. So it looked like a good game. I think all goals came, no, not all. One came quite early on in the second half, and then the other 3 were in the first. But yeah, Jake Table on loan from Swindon. He was one of the players that was come from non-league and signed for a League Two side. One of the crazy non-league stories, which happened in the summer. So to see him scoring at step 1 of the non-league pyramid after I think he was playing at step 5 or so last season, I think it's crazy to see how the pyramid just shows how much quality there is just hidden away down there, that he's scoring at step 1 of non-league now. But yeah, Aaron Blair for the Spitfires, yeah, really good player. Was at Maidstone last year, scored the winner against Eastbourne Borough in the playoffs. So he had a really good season for them last year. So to see him bagging in the goals in the National League isn't a surprise. But yeah, I do get where you're coming from with that point, Simon. But yeah, I think Boreham Woods are comfortably in it, and Scunthorpe are as well. So I do see where you're coming from, but both with some poor results on the weekend. So credit to Eastleigh with a decent point, and massive credit to Boston for the run of form they've been on recently.
Yeah, and another top of the table clash really. Two other teams that were in and amongst it was Forest Green, Carlisle. Carlisle beating Forest Green away from home into 3rd position, or stay in 3rd position. Boreham Wood now with that point, 5 points off Carlisle in 4th. So they do have a game in hand, but they've extended that with the win, haven't they?
Yeah, huge result for them. I thought one of the main talking points was one of the goals that Carlisle scored. I sent it to you, didn't I, Sterling? It looked like Lionel Messi was playing on Forest Green's pitch. David, let's try this. David Ajiboye. Well, I think that's a better chat.
How's that, mate?
That another one for the list. Tick it off. But I remember speaking about him when he actually signed for Carlisle, because he played for Peterborough, I think, just last season or 2 seasons ago in League One. And to see him playing National League, I was like, why is he playing at this level? And the goal he scored probably just puts that point into perspective, because he literally got the ball from his own half, own penalty area, And he just kept going and going and going and going, like literally brushed off all the Forest Green players. Finished it off in the opposite penalty area and tucked it into the bottom corner. Has to be goal of the season so far in the
Yeah, that's
league,
brilliant.
because it was like, do you remember Son's goal against Burnley in, what was it, 2021, where it was very similar, where he just got it and just kept going and going and going. It was very similar to that goal. So massive credit to him, and it was a really good result for Carlisle. All came in the first 30 minutes there. Goals from Wynne and Feeney with the other goals as well. But the goal back from Forest Green wasn't enough to try and make a half-time comeback. Jay Mingy off the bench to score. But Forest Green haven't been happy. Fans disappointed recently with Robbie Savage, which I think is a bit undeserved, saying about him departing the club, which I think was a bit harsh. But it has been one win in their last 7, 1 draw, 2 losses, 2 draws, 4 losses. That's in the league. You're excluding a 3-0 home loss in the FA Trophy to Wealdstone as well. But they're still comfortably in the playoffs at the moment, but way off the automatics now, which they were in at some point. They were in that race, but recent results have put them way off. It's 16 points now. But Carlisle needed the win, bit inconsistent before this results. 3 wins, 1 draw and 3 losses in all comps in their last 7. So a big result. It's their first time getting 2 wins on the bounce since late December. So shows how this result could be a real confidence booster for the players. But yeah, in terms of the result, it's another damaging run for Forest Green, but I think it'll be a bit too much for Carlisle to get into the automatic spots and win the league this season. But don't know what you think on the Forest Green situation at the minute, but it's going very poorly for them at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think they've had 3 games and they've lost all 3 of them, which if they got any pretensions of getting promoted, they needed to have done better. They lost to York, Rochdale, now Carlisle. And Carlisle, Mark Hughes done a double over Robbie Savage there because they won at home as well, Carlisle. So that'd be really disappointing.
Right, okay.
I think the discontent with the Forest Green supporters is because Robbie Savage was heavily linked with the Blackburn job. That's where their discontent comes, and the fact that they beat Woking, but those 3 recent results are ones where they really should expect to do better. I mean, he's an ambitious guy, Robbie Savage, so I can see why Forest Green supporters were a bit anxious about the fact that he could go, but they've got no chance of getting into that automatic place at the top of the table now. It's between York and Rochdale, I think, that top place. But Carlisle cemented their place sort of right up there as well with a great result to go to Forest Green and win. Brilliant for them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just between those two. I don't see Forest Green getting anywhere near it. It's going to be playoffs for them, and it'll be interesting. But yeah, between York and Rochdale now, and I think Rochdale are in pole position with 2 games in hand, and they're level on points. So yes, we'll have to see with that. We'll move on to National League South, and big game at the top of the league again for Hornchurch. Big 3-2 win against Tunbridge. Less so about the game for me, to be fair, because I watched the highlights. Angelo Belanta got a 93rd minute winner to actually go ahead and win the game and get all 3 points for Hornchurch. I thought Tonbridge Angels were unlucky to actually lose the game. I mean, albeit they did score 2 tap-ins, but I thought they were unlucky. But I think, as I said, away from the game itself, I did mention it when we watched them. I think it was against Torquay. That pitch that Hornchurch have got, I think if they get into the National League, I don't know whether that ground is going to be sufficient, to be honest. It's very odd, and the pitch looked shocking. You see as they're running with the ball, it's like bobbling up. and they didn't play the best football from what I've seen in these highlights. A lot of long balls. And it made me think about that video I sent you, George, of Danny Bassett and some other people speaking about the National League South and how it's very, I don't know what the words they use, but it's a lot more physical and long ball, and it's not as technical. And they're
Yeah,
basically making the point, Dad, that actually the Isthmian and National League South aren't too dissimilar, which is why you see teams like, I can't think of an example now, but you see teams coming up from Isthmian and doing so well in the National League South straight away.
mm.
So yeah, well, it would be like
Actually,
Horsham.
yeah,
We went to watch.
Horsham,
Um,
Mansfield, Tottenham. I think we predicted those both struggle, and they're 12th and 15th. So I don't think there's a huge difference. I think there is a difference.
exactly.
There's a difference at the top of the table. I think some of those teams at the top of the table
Yeah,
are much more like National League teams, just because of the setup there. You know, Dorking springs to mind. Torquay United, obviously, historically a football league club. Worthing has obviously got a great setup there, so you would expect teams like that to be up there. But
yeah,
then, the fact that Tottenham and Horsham have got into mid-table there suggests that what you're saying is right.
Yeah, and I just think that if Hornchurch are to get promoted um as champions or through the playoffs, I think they're going to struggle, and I think it'll be a situation like Truro, to be honest. So I'm quite hoping that they don't, to be honest, not just from a Worthing or Dorking perspective. Just
yeah,
even think it'd be better having like Torquay go up than Hornchurch, to be honest. But yeah, on the subject of Dorking, they had probably the standout fixture of the weekend, didn't they, George?
yeah. 8-goal thriller, which they somehow got on the end of a 5-3 win at home against struggling Farnborough side who are now in the drop zone on goal difference with just one league win in their last 8 games, 1 win, 2 draws, 5 losses. So don't know if you think they'll go down or not. But in terms of the game, puts them 2 points clear with a game in hand on Torquay as well. But tonight's game against Hornchurch for them is so big because they could increase their gap to 5 points at the top of the table, which would keep them top of the table because at this minute in time, Hornchurch have a game in hand. So that game in hand, even if Hornchurch would win, they would still be top of the table. So huge game tonight for them. But Alfie Rutherford's coming back from injury and he got a late brace to sort of seal the win, 81st and 84th minute. But Dorking did go 2-0 down in 10 minutes via Rennie Smith and Amir Haji goals for Farnborough. But Paul McCallum, who you were speaking about, Sterling, his experience when he joined from Eastleigh, non-league's top goal scorer of all time, or something, wasn't it? In the National
Yeah,
League, he got on the score sheet to equalise in the game, so showing his experience in the game. But yeah, Dorking, fine run of form. So I don't know what you think, but I thought it showed a sort of champion sort of mentality. They were 2-0 down in the game, 3-2 down for like 25 odd minutes with just 25 minutes of the game to go. I think it just shows that they can get out of bad situations with, quality which they have on the pitch. I don't know what you think about that sort of statement.
yeah, that's the sort of mentality that he instills, Mark White, in the team, isn't it? Never say die, and that they got to fucking work hard. You can imagine him giving them a rollicking. 2-0 down to Farnborough early on. Yeah, you can imagine him giving them a load of shit when they got in, and I think hit the nail on the head. Champions sort of mentality. That's what good sides do. They grind out wins, or they come back in games and they find a way to win, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, they've got an outstanding home record, Dorking, 14 wins out of 16 games. So
Mental.
that seems
Wow.
to be sort of that calibre of championship team, as you say, but it's so tight at the top of the table. The team that I wanted to talk about, Hemel Hempstead, goes back to your point, really, Sterling. You're talking about teams getting promoted out of this division and maybe struggling a level above. I mean, they had a great result to beat Worthing. I think it was a bit of a down match from the highlights. And Hinchelwood wasn't happy with Worthing at all. He laid into him after the game. I think apart from Razak, Coleman, de Graaf, I don't think any of the Worthing players covered themselves in glory. He had a few efforts that could have gone in on another day, but they struck me as a team, Hemel Hempstead. They're just so inconsistent, especially at home. They've only won 9 games out of 17 at home, but they find themselves on the edge of the playoffs and they could get promoted. But when you look at the setup there, I just don't think it's set up for a level above. And that game against Worthing, which when you think about it, would be one of their top games of the season because Worthing were going so great. They barely got 600 people there.
That's
Really?
crazy compared
Wow.
to some of these sides in the division as well.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that is quite mental, isn't it? I remember seeing Hinchelwood's interview. He said it was a really dull Worthing performance, and you don't see often Worthing not scoring any goals in a game, which I think shows how well Hemel did to sort of keep out sort of the attack which Worthing have. And it just continues to have bad run of form. We had it on the group chat. I think it's 7 games without a win now. Ever since that Dorking game, it's not very good at the minute, is it, Sterling?
No, it's been tragic run of form, to be honest, and they need to sort it out early, sooner rather than later. Sorry, should I say? If they want to get promoted as the champions, otherwise they're going to be in the playoffs again, and traditionally it's not gone very well for them, has it? But I think it's a good point when you make about Hemel Hempstead. They're not really cut out to be in the league above, but I did actually think they had quite a good squad and they looked like a good team when we were doing those predictions. And I think I had them the highest out of all of us. I thought they'd have a good season, and I was tempted to put them in the playoffs. I remember that because I liked a few of their players, but yeah, I do think that's a good point about especially the fans only having 600 there. I think you go to places in the National League if they were to get promoted, and it'd be a shock to the system.
Yeah, they wouldn't stand a chance with crowds in that sort of league. You know, you're going to Carlisle, you're going to Rochdale, with their
Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe. Yeah, you got Yeovil, you got some big grounds. Good support in that league. You won't survive really with 600 fans at your ground because in that league, wouldn't be surprised if they average at least, you know, maybe like 1.5, 2,000 in that league on average. Would that be a fair estimate?
Yeah,
I think those clubs at the top get more than that. I think they're more like 3,500, 4,000. And when you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
people coming through the door, you can afford to
yeah,
be a professional setup, can't you? So that's the point.
yeah,
And I think we've
yeah,
said it before, but that if they did get promoted, they would find themselves up against full-time professionals, and that's going to be
yeah,
a leap above, I think.
yeah, absolutely. We move on finally to the Isthmian Premier Division. And might as well start off by talking about Lewis again. Another batter in 2 weeks on the bounce. They actually went 1-0 up in this game. Devontae West, who we know is a great player, opened the scoring, but then went on to lose by 6 goals to 1. Haefley just absolutely battered them after this. And I listened to Craig Nelson, the Lewis manager's post-match interview, and he said that they made it too easy for Haefley. They need to be harder to beat going forward, and basically just questioning the application in other words, of the Lewis players, saying that it was way too easy for Avely to get some of the goals they did. He did credit them for being a good side. Did mention, I think, the injuries that Lewis have got as well, and how that's meaning
yeah,
that potentially they have to change the way they play against these sides near the top of the division. But yeah, he was very critical of the team, and you can't really blame him because Lewis just after such a promising start, again, it's like they're playing the same season on loop, isn't it? They just crashed down the league.
Yeah, their form is appalling. You're saying the last 2 games, but if you look at the last 5 games, it's 17 goals against and 1 for, I think, which is just so.
Now,
Is
It's awful, isn't it?
that the problem? They've got loads of injuries there.
I think they do
yeah,
have a lot of injuries. They
they've
lost the
had
captain
loads.
as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they've had loads of injuries, and they've had to resort to buying players from either the same level or leagues below because they've just had such an extortionate amount of injuries. So yeah,
Yeah, rubbish from Lewis at the moment, and as I said, it's just like they're going about the same season on repeat. They're 14th now, and I don't think with the quality they've got in that team, they should be that far down, and it's really a surprise. But I didn't think they'd get playoffs. I think you might have predicted it, both of you.
no,
Definitely think you.
Simon predicted them to be just above the bottom 4. I predicted them in the playoffs, and you predicted them, I think, in where they
10th.
sort of are now, 10th or so. Yeah, so you're probably the
Yeah.
most accurate at the minute. Yeah.
Yes, but very frustrating with them being our local side. But towards the top of the table, Billericay secured their 7th consecutive league victory, didn't they, Dad? Against Chichester City.
Yeah, it's a good result for Billericay. We saw them, didn't we, against Burgess Hill? Didn't look any great shakes to me, but they've been on a tear recently. So yeah, got themselves a win, got themselves right up towards the top of the table, and they're, along with Averley, they're the form team in the division. Well, Folkestone and Victor, I think we can just not bother talking about them because they're obviously going to be promoted by a country mile, but them and Averley are doing really well. Interestingly, Averley drew 2-2 with Chichester last night.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
They were losing that game right until the 91st minute, I think, and then they
Yeah,
managed to
last
get
minute
to
winner.
the
Last minute equaliser, sorry.
equaliser. Yeah, there's all to play for in terms of those playoff matches. And what I don't get, and I thought we were talking about the playoff from the National League, but the playoffs from the Isthmian up into the National League South is just a straight 14 fight. So
Yeah.
I don't understand why it's not the same as it is in the National League into the Football League. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I think they need to have a
Need to
think
change
about it.
that. Need to
Yeah,
change that,
absolutely.
definitely. I think
Yeah.
it's been something on my mind for quite a while. I remember watching the league from when I was younger and thinking, why have the league above got, what is it, 2 or 3 extra playoff spots and the league below doesn't? It just seems a bit unfair on the league, if that's a way of putting it, because it just makes it way more difficult for them. But in terms of Billericay, really good run of form. As you said, 7 on the trot. Chichester beating Chichester is a really good result because they were on the back of beating Chatham Town 3-2 away from home, which I remember seeing was an incredible result for them. So, and Chichester have sort of brought their season back alive after a really struggling start. So Billericay beating them is not an easy result for them to get. So I think Billericay would have been massively happy with that result come the final whistle.
Absolutely, and they've got themselves back up to where they should be, Billericay, after such a poor start. Towards the bottom end of the division, Cheshunt had a really good result, kind of extending their gap away from those teams in the relegation zone, away to Wingate and Finchley, didn't they, George?
Yeah, it was a huge result. All goals coming in the first half, funnily enough. A five goal for Field first half. You think maybe you get a few more in the second, but it wasn't the case in the second half. But in terms of the game, it was 2-0 to Cheshunt in the first 15 sort of minutes, and then literally 2 goals after the other in the 19th and 22nd minute. Wingate and Fitchy were back level, but then Cheshunt would have been happy to, regain the lead after bottling a 2-goal lead. They got back in front with Branthwaite, I think he's got 4 or 5 goals for them this season, so he's having a decent season for them. But in terms of the form for each side, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Wingate is we were speaking about them maybe a month or two ago because they had that shocking start, but then all of a sudden, if you remember, they had that spell of results where they just kept winning and winning or were unbeaten for such a long amount of time. And then I spoke about them loads of episodes ago when they beat Lewis at home in November, mid-November. And since I spoke about that game, they have not won a game. They're without a win in 12 league games. That is absolutely mental. That is abysmal, isn't it? I don't know how. I mean, Lewis a bad run of forms, but they ain't that bad run of forms. You know what I mean? But really, really worrying for them. But Cheshunt now unbeaten in 5, 3 wins, 2 draws in their last 5, and they extended their gap to 8 points away from the drop in 15th. Also with games in hand. So, as well as Wingate, who I was about to say, they have games in hand, so they need to utilise them massively because they are in the battle at the minute of staying in the division. I think they've got 2 or 3 games in hand on Hashtag or Cray Valley Paper Mills. So it'll be a really, really tough battle come the end of the season. But Wingate need to find a win sometime soon because not winning since November, I think, just summarises sort of how things are going there at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what you guys think about this, but it seems to me that the gap in quality is the highest in this division out of any of the leagues we. There's a real disparity between the teams at the top and then even the teams kind of in that middle pack like Lewis are nowhere near it. You think in a better division they'd be struggling badly. Even Hashtag now are in 16th and they've been torrid pretty much all season. And they'll be all right. Cray Valley Paper Mills, the boys that Dad's had to win it, they're 18th. I just think that.
Just to interject there, they beat Wingate and Finchley 4-2 a few weeks ago, so they're a decent side.
They got a point.
They got
a point with the new gaffer. Do you know the Lisby twins that I was on about the last episode or the other day? Yeah, their dad's the new manager of Cray Valley because he was a really good player and he had loads of experience and he got a point against, I think it was Canby Island at home. Came back from 2-0 down, so go on the Cray Valley.
One of the sons used to play there, didn't he?
Yeah. I think that was Kai Reese. One went the academy route and one went non-league route. One went from Cray Valley to Braintree to Peterborough, and one went from Brentford Academy to Colchester. So, but yeah, I think that was actually a really good appointment from Cray Valley. He's got loads of experience, so I have to see if they can stay in the division, not win the league.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that about the disparity in terms of quality in the division. I just think the entire division is a step below the National League South. I really do. I don't think any of the teams. We unfortunately haven't seen Folkestone yet. You've seen them, haven't you, George?
Yeah, I've seen them twice. Absolutely joke.
So, I mean, they look like, they're tearing away with it, aren't they? So they look like they may have a chance at a higher level.
100%. Honestly, I reckon they'll do really well next season.
I can't see any of the teams that we have seen this season being able to make it at that higher level. I really can't. And they all look like they're much of a muchness to me. And although there is a gap, I just think that, it's all to do with form and getting the right players in. And as I said to you before, down at this level, it's difficult to keep squads together. You sometimes see entire squads being rebuilt because the manager's gone. So this guy coming into Cray Valley Paper Mills might be bringing several signings with him that could turn it right round for them. Wingate and Finchley, just going back to them, they've obviously only played 11 games at home. We know what reason for that, and 2 games that they've won, 2 drawn and 7 defeats. So they've got a few games in hand to play at home, so they probably will be able to turn that round.
Yeah, you'd imagine so, actually. It's a good point. They've got plenty of points to make up there, so we'll have to wait and see. It's a good note to leave it on. Thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 29, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye.